I guess you don't need a clicker.
No. I mean, I could fake click it.
Yeah, fake clicker.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm with the Derby City Curling Club, most of whom are seated right there. And I'm going to tell you everything you didn't realize you wanted to know about curling. So, hands up everybody who has seen curling in the Olympics. Okay, would you not participate, please? Hands up anybody who's learned to curl. Please stop responding. Anybody else done a learn to curl here in town? Okay, so we'll start from the very basics. And we're gonna go back about 600 years. So the first time we can absolutely say that curling exists is about 1541 in Scotland. Now, hopefully there's no Scots in the room when I say this. It might have existed in Holland first, we don't know, but we don't talk about it, so it's fine. We know it exists in 1541 because a pastor wrote about it. And he wrote about it in a little bit of a patronizing way, but we appreciate it. He said something along the lines of, oh, I apologize now. He wrote about monks playing curling on ice in Scotland. So that's kind of where we get our first image of what it looks like. It becomes very popular in Scotland. It just rolls and rolls and rolls. It's played outside on frozen lakes with sort of rocks, but not what we picture today as this curling rock. And then we end up in the 18th century, and it is very, very popular. Robert Burns was a curler. We know this because he talks about going to curling matches, and he references curling in some of his poems. And then it becomes this huge thing, and by the 1830s, curling was so popular and so widespread across Scotland that they needed a national club to regulate play, because basically everybody was playing their own version of the game, much like any other game that exists. So in 1838, so we're pretty modern now, the Caledonian Curling Club becomes the regulatory body for everything curling. Because at this point, while there is some curling in Holland, Scotland is doing all of the curling. Well, no, that's not true either, but we'll get to that. And so we have this club, and we have rules, and it's a regular sport now. So, as of right now, Scotland has 600 curling clubs, a very successful Olympic team, and still curls all the time. So curling came to Canada in 1807. That's when you're supposed to clap. And the first club was in Montreal, but it spread all over the country. And it continued to grow and grow and grow and grow. And particularly during the Depression and the Second World War, because it was available and people got very used to being able to do it, and it joined neighbor and neighbor, and small town with small town. And you had regional and village competitions. And it was a social place to go and hang out. And as of when I wrote this thing, Canada has 1,000 curling clubs, which I think is pretty impressive. So the first curling club in the US, well, this is also questionable. See, this is the thing about curling, is people will tell you things. Some of it may or may not be true. It's a lot of legend and some facts. So the first curling club in the US was Orchard Lakes Curling Club, and this is near Detroit. They claim that they opened in 1832. This is probably not true. But interestingly, or I think it's interesting anyway, because I'm a nerd, It was opened on the land of a man named Dr. Robert Burns, which just feels right if you're talking about curling. The oldest continuously operating curling club in the U.S. is Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And that was founded in 1845, which is probably also when Orchard Lakes was founded, but shh. Curling spread and thrived throughout the 1800s, mostly in places like Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan. But as of right now, there are 246 active curling clubs in the U.S., and there is at least one in every state, including Hawaii. We have a governing board that's called the United States Curling Association, and that governs that's our Olympic and Paralympic governing board, and they were founded in 1958. But really, they're coming into their own sort of in the last 20 years. And they, in turn, are a member of the World Curling Federation. And the World Curling Federation is doing very exciting things. And there are now curling associations in 67 countries. Andorra, Turkey, Mongolia, Nigeria, and last week we welcomed Pakistan into the World Curling Federation. So you can curl anywhere. Curling is an Olympic sport, as we all know. It was originally played at the 1924 Olympics, but then it became a demonstration sport and was a demonstration sport until 1992. So we had a big gap. Obviously, it is currently a medal sport, and we hope it stays that way. So that's a abridged history. Lots of facts, probably quite a bit of fiction. But we're going to talk about the basics of curling now. Anybody want to throw out what they know about curling? Not you guys. Yes?
It's like big kid shuffleboard.
That's a good way to describe it. It is on ice, so a little bit different from shuffleboard. And we use shoes that look like this. It's harder to tell with mine. This is rubber. This is Teflon. This is Teflon. You all know that already.
Is Teflon slippery?
Teflon is slippery. Thank you. No, these are both Teflon. Yes. So this is very slippery on ice. But luckily, sorry, I know I promised not to walk that way. We have these, which are grippers. They are rough-sided, they are made of rubber, and they go over your Teflon if you're not very talented and can slide on your shoes without wearing a gripper, and that makes you safe. This is the shoe that you slide with. So when you've seen curling in the Olympics, you see them lunge. This is the shoe that slides. Back to the basics. Oh, now I've completely gone the wrong direction. I apologize. So, there are 4 team members who take turns throwing 2 stones down 150 feet of ice towards a target. And I apologize, I've completely lost my train of thought. Comprised in ends, sort of like innings in baseball, and we play 8 or 10 of them a go. We'll go back over this. Each team throws 8 stones, 4 curlers, 2 stones. I already said that.
Here, at least you can show it that you did your.
Oh, I did the work. Sorry, you all. Okay, this is much easier. So, let's back up a little bit. I apologize. Curling is a sport in which teams of 2 or 4 take turns throwing a 42-pound granite rock down a 150-foot long sheet of ice towards a target area, which is segmented into concentric rings. It looks like the Target logo. We know that, right? A game of curling is comprised of ends, which are similar to innings in baseball, and over the course of a curling game, 8 to 10 ends will be played. Within an end, each team throws 8 stones. 4 curlers, 2 stones. I've said that like 4 times. When a person throws a stone, there are 2 teammates sweeping. And they use something that looks like this. This is a very modern broom. They used to be actually brooms. The purpose of sweeping is to either make the stone travel straighter or stop it from slowing down, thus making it travel farther. Excellent sweeping potentially can carry a stone an extra 12 to 15 feet. It's a long way for this little broom to take a big, big stone on ice. There are 4 positions in curling. They are lead, second, vice, and skip. So lead sounds like what it is. It goes first. Second, go second. Vice is a little more confusing. They go third, but they act as vice captain. And skip is captain, to a certain extent. The lead is responsible for throwing the first 2 stones, and then they sweep the rest of the game. The second throws the second 2 stones, and then sweeps. The third will take over for the skip when it's their turn to curl. And the skip is the one that you see on the other end of the ice with his broom or her broom or their broom in the air or pointing at the stone. And they're telling their teammates what to do to a certain extent. So they are the ones who do the strategy for the game. They're the ones who get to know the ice and what it's doing and what the stones will do. But very much it's a team sport. So curling is played on a sheet of ice that is 150 feet long. But it's not just a sheet of ice. It's a sheet of ice that has obviously markings in it, and we paint those on every year. Or some people use plastic. That's fine. But it also has a very unique surface. And that surface goes back to the history that we talked about in Scotland. Because when they were first playing on Scottish ice outside in a drizzle, the ice would have pebble on it from where the drizzle hit the ice and froze. And this is what makes the stones slide on the ice. They would not be able to slide if there was not that pebble. Stones also have a concave bottom. So when you see that 42-pound stone going down the ice, the only part of it that's actually touching anything, and it's only touching the top of the pebbles, is about a ring this big. 42 pounds, all that's touching is a ½ inch circle. And that's why. That's why it can go so fast. That's why you can control it. That's why it curls. This is a little small for everybody to see, I understand. But this is essentially what a curling sheet looks like. And we have, that's really small, I realize. So this is a hack where you stand and deliver your stone. You have to deliver it past this line and have to get it past this line to be in play. So that's a good amount of ice you have to cover. I apologize, It's much nicer if you can see it, but I'm gonna skip this one. Equipment. There's a lot of stuff you need. Now, when you're doing a learn to curl, you just bring yourself and socks. Please bring socks. Be amazed how many people don't bring socks to a learn to curl. I personally don't like to stand on ice without socks for 2 hours, but you do you. So what we bring as curlers is we bring our shoes, which you guys have seen. We bring our brooms. We bring gloves, usually. But we also have to bring the equipment to make the ice. So that's a pebbler, which basically mimics drizzle on ice. It's a backpack, and we have very brave people who walk backwards up the ice doing this, spreading the drizzle. There are machines for taking just the very tip of that pebble off to make the surface just a little bit better. Obviously, we have stones. Fortunately, we don't have one to show you. But if you Google curling stone, you'll find it. You've seen sliders, you've seen grippers. Hacks are a little harder. Has everyone here seen running, competitive running, where they start in a sort of box? So a hack on ice is kind of like that. So we do this. Only for us, we're not trying to take off. Well, we are kind of. We're trying to slide out with as much pressure as possible. But picture a runner starting box. And then we use stabilizers. Some people use brooms because it's very difficult to stay up when you're in this position. So usually someone has a stabilizer. That was the first time I've ever done that with alcohol in my arm. So one of the big things about curling also is the etiquette and the teamsmanship that goes along with this. And this was written into the rules way back when we talked about that first curling club in Scotland. You had to be a good teammate. You had to be a good competitor. It's required. So every game starts with a handshake. 4 people shaking 4 other people's hands. During COVID, we did not do that, obviously, but it also starts with saying good curling to everybody on your team. Oh, I'm well over time. There's a lot of game rule that I don't think we really need to go over. Basically, the point is to get your stone into the house, get it closest to the button, which is the center circle, and the team with the stone closest to the center circle wins. It's not quite as simple as that. Nothing in curling ever is, but that's basically summing it up. Only one team ever scores, so you can put all your stones in the house. It can look like a winning game, and at the very last second, someone comes along with maybe a triple takeout, and they win. Etiquette. This is what I was just talking about. Every rule book for every curling club talks about etiquette. We start and end with a handshake. You tell your opponents good curling. You cheer them when they make a good shot. You never ever say mean things to them. Under your breath in the bathroom, maybe. Never ever on the ice. And the fundamental theme of curling is respect. Respect for everybody. Everyone involved in the game. So timeliness, readiness, courtesy, not distracting other players when they're shooting, not obstructing, helping everyone. And this is the big thing, and this is my favorite thing. Curling requires you to call your own fouls. It's like the height of bad play if you don't call your own foul. So for example, there's a foul called burning the stone. That means you've touched a stone. If you don't tell somebody, oh no, that is bad. And when you tell somebody, because you have to, because it would be wrong not to, they get to decide what happens. So it's the most fair thing in the world. And finally, and this is part of the etiquette thing too, we do a thing called broom stacking at the end of every game, which means we go off the ice, we pile our brooms up, and whoever won the game buys a round of beer for whoever lost the game. After that round, anyone who lost the game buys a round for the winners, and we go on from there until, well, it should not be on the ice anymore. Thank you for listening to my
Everybody give it up for Cate. Cate's gonna come up here and answer some questions. So, any questions for Cate? Hands in the air for Cate. Any questions? All right. That was the first hand that I seen right there.
How did you get into curling in Kentucky where it's melting all of a sudden?
How did you get into curling in Kentucky where ice melts all the time?
Funny you say that. My mother is Welsh. I watched curling a lot. She actually went to college near where one of the only places in the world the granite comes from. So she was very into it. And I loved it. And I was cruising the internet one day and I saw these crazy people here and took a class, never looked back. Vice president now.
So you had to be Welsh to get into curling, to become the vice president. Yes, back there.
Are there first of all, do you like how curling practice? And are there specific skills apart from just playing a game of curling that you might practice in order to be better at curling?
So remember when I said this earlier, previous Nerd Nights before, where people tell really long stories, but then it's like a really small question. I'm gonna try to paraphrase this. Are there transferable skills that you can practice in order to become a good curler? I got an okay.
So we do practice. We have club practice nights, but yoga is great for curling. Pilates is great for curling. Golf is really good for, I guess, developing the strategy skills for curling. Maybe because they're sort of sibling sports. But yeah, yoga and Pilates really helps, as does fencing. If you're a fencer, you're probably a pretty able curler, but I realize that's also a pretty obscure sport.
So basically, if you have all of these skills, you can be a curler. Yes.
How long is a typical match? And yeah.
What is the duration of a typical curling match?
So generally speaking, it's about 2 hours. And that sounds like a long time to be on the ice, but you get so warm so quickly that you don't really feel it. Maybe in your feet a little bit, but yeah, it's 2 hours, give or take.
Yes.
If we wanted to check out Derby City Curling, how would we go about that?
This is a promotional question. Are there flyers for Derby City Curling in your hand that you want to hand out to everyone in here that wants to? Everyone put your hands together for Cate.